All right, blow off top now. Blow off top is coming, folks. Do you now believe that Pablo Heman has called this? We're going for a blow off top with some pullbacks. It's all about calling how big the pullbacks were going to be. So my call was for mid 90s, right? Mid 90s, we got to 98. Once again, I called for 73K and we got to like 74K. I called for mid 90s and we got to like 98, right? Almost pierced to 97. So it's kind of close. So it does look like the ceasefire is in effect, but you know what? No one's going to tell you this. Oh, by the way, here we've had the bounce, and this is the trend line. This is the trend line from which Bitcoin broke down out of, right? See, this was the can you see the triangle here? That's the upper edge. This is the lower edge. Bitcoin broke down, went to 98K, almost to 97K, then bounced. I think we hit this trend line and we pull back. And overall, if you ignore that, basically Bitcoin just, as I've been saying, bouncing up and down inside this bull flag, right? Bull flag. Can't rule out another visit back into the 90s because, there's a crazy situation in the Middle East. Israel wanted to break the ceasefire again, because Iran kept on bombing right up to the ceasefire, the end of the ceasefire. So Israel wants to retaliate. So basically something like this, and then in July, right, we take off. Okay, so nobody tells you guys this, but I figured out how this Bitcoin or crypto or stock market bull run is going to work. The stock market, by the way, is also near all-time high. Bitcoin's a near all-time high. It's at what, like 106K? And all-time high is 112K. So look at this. I figured out how to summarize this. Look at this little jump, and we're all-time high 614. Right now we're 607. So I figured out how to actually summarize, how to predict the future here. You ready? Are you ready? It works like this. I call it Trump's blow off top, and it works like this. Trump, step one. There's only two steps. Trump create the crisis. Step two. Trump solve the crisis. In other words, it works like this. Trump start the fire. All right, okay. Step one, Trump start the fire. Step two, Trump put out the fire. He plays the arsonist and the fireman all at once. And that's how we're going to get a blow off top. Look, I'll show you. This is how it works, right? So here, for example, he's going to start a number of fires like this. Trump start the fire, right? Tariffs. China gets 145%. Europe gets like 30%. Japan gets 25%. Taiwan even gets like 30%. Boom, market crashes. Then he says, no. I only meant like 10% for Europe, 10% for Canada, 30% for China, and then boom, the market comes right back. And then he caves. See this gap here? That gap was the Geneva weekend. I thought it was going to pull back. I got that call wrong because I called him to cave. I called him Barney Rubble, the caveman, publicly, number of times. But I didn't know he was going to cave that fast and says, okay, 30% for China, all the way down from 145%, and boom, market jumped up, never came back, boom. And do you see here? Do you see the gaps in the market, the jump up, the gap openings? This was because he caved on China. This was because he caved on Iran. Oh, what do you mean by he caved on Iran, Pablo? He bombed Iran. No, what he does is this. He basically allows Israel, he gives permission for Israel to attack Iran. Iran hits back very softly. And then Israel wants to go ahead and bomb their nuclear facilities, which Trump does, but he tells them beforehand. He tells Iran beforehand, remove your nukes. I'm going to bomb your nuclear facilities. And Iran says, okay, we'll do that. But then give us a face-saving way to get out of this. Then Iran attacks the U.S. military bases in Qatar, but doesn't really hit anybody, and U.S. knows to evacuate, right? So both sides can say to their supporters and voters, hey, look how tough we are. And again, the crisis is solved. Trump creates the fire, Trump puts out the fire, and once again, the crisis is solved. But there are other crises he's playing with as well. It's not just those two. before we get on to all of that, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo He-Man use? Well, Pablo uses this exchange that is non-KYC. That means you don't even need to show your ID. That means the exchange can't even see who you are. So that means the IRS can't see you. IRS can't see you. The tax office can't see you. The FBI, CIA, nobody can see you, right? So I made this deal with them, just deposit and get a 20% bonus, right? Deposit 100 USDT and get $20 futures bonus. Deposit $1,000 and get $200 futures bonus, right? Chance to win a MacBook Pro, iPhone 16, Apple Watch, right? Even if you're just in top 20 of this competition, this Pablo He-Man, not the overall competition, but the Pablo He-Man competition, you get to win a prize. Okay, but this is for a limited time only. It ends on 11th of July. And for folks who are watching on YouTube, the link is in the description below. The link is in the description below. For everyone else, basically on any other platform, just go to my profile page and there is my link, the Stan link, or it'll be the first deal that pops up because Bitunix is a great deal. Okay, let's get back to the markets. But remember, folks, only on the Pablo He-Man link. So what I was saying was, now you've got the NASDAQ pretty much at all-time highs as well, right? And you've got the QQQ. So basically, okay, another thing we've seen today is that the Fed is willing to cut rates now. And the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, just spoke in front of Congress. And what he said was very, very encouraging. Basically, okay, well, the situation is that you have these two Federal Reserve presidents come out. One's called Waller, and one's called Bowman. Bowman is the woman, the female, and both of them are leading the voice to say that we should cut rates, and rates are too restrictive, and so therefore it puts the pressure on Powell. He doesn't want to be the last guy standing, just trying to not cut rates, because if a recession happens, he'll go down in history as the sinner, as the guy who refused to cut rates. So look at this. Let's look at the probability or the odds of a rate cut. Now the market has adjusted hugely. This is a September contract, September 17th. July, not so much, but September, mid-September, the market is pricing in an 85% chance. 85% chance of a rate cut. And compared to, say, 1 month ago, we were looking at 40% chance there was no rate cut. So it stays at 425 to 450. And now we've dropped to 15% chance that there's no rate cut. We've gone from 40 to 15% chance. And we can see that one rate cut was 48% chance, now 70% chance. 2 rate cuts, there was 12% chance, now it's 15% chance. So basically, the market is reacting in real time to the fact that the Federal Reserve is basically much more likely to cut rates. And this comes back to my theory once again, that Trump creates the crisis, and then Trump solves the crisis. Trump creates the crisis, and he solves the crisis. The Federal Reserve Chairman said very clearly that he can't cut rates because they're expecting inflation to go up once the tariffs kick in over July, August, September, right? Who created the tariffs? Trump, right? Now he's bringing the tariffs down. So now the Federal Reserve Chairman is saying, okay, maybe tariffs are not as bad as we think it's going to be. So maybe inflation is not going to be as bad as we thought it's going to be. So it was so it's just crazy. Look at this pattern. Trump starts the fire with the tariffs. Trump starts the fire with the inflation fear and the Fed not cutting. Trump allows Israel, gives permission. You don't be stupid. You don't be naive. You don't think that Israel can go ahead and bomb Iran without US's blessing or permission? So then you've got the Iran-Israel war, right? He starts the fire on all three, which spikes oil prices. The oil prices just crashed again. Now from like $78 to $65, that means inflation's coming down. He starts the fire on all three. Then he goes back and he puts out the fire on all three. Tariffs on all countries comes down to back down to 10%, except China, which is 30% on top of what happened in 2018. The inflation, because tariffs are down, inflation could be down. And then the Iran-Israel war situation, he tells them beforehand he's going to bomb the nuclear bases, and now basically both sides can show their voters that, hey, I bombed Iran's nuclear bases. I didn't destroy their nuclear stock, but I bombed their nuclear bases. And Iran says, I bombed Qatar. I bombed the U.S. Military base in Qatar, right? So both sides can put on a theatrical show, and we're back. We're back to, so now we're back to ceasefire now. So basically now you have market was fearing high tariffs, and then came down to low tariffs. Market was fearing no rate cuts, and now came back to, okay, there will be rate cuts. Market was fearing a big war in the Middle East, oil price spike, and oil price comes back down. It's basically just, Trump's way of, look, this fits because this is the way that Trump does business. He calls it the art of war, which essentially becomes the art of the deal, which essentially comes down to, I'm going to bluff my way out of this first, and then try to patch things up. This is what I mean. Like, if the best case scenario we can look at is this oil price. Oil price was going down, and look at this. It broke the shoulder broke up, right? And then basically went to like almost $80. And folks should know, if you're in my Discord, you know this already, that for every $10 oil goes up, then inflation in the United States goes up by 0.5%. So for $20 increasing oil price, and then the inflation in the United States goes up by 1%. So we've gone from like here $63 to almost 80. So that's like almost 1% increase in inflation from say 2.4% to 3.4%. Fed was never going to cut. And then because of the peace deal, and someone's nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, so now it's crashed from $78 to $64, $15 crash in 2 days. This is the biggest crash I've seen in oil price in recent history, because no one is as crazy as Trump. And so therefore, by the way, I think oil is going to bounce around here. The $63 area. You can see tops around here. So therefore, he creates these crises, and he then puts out the fire because of his negotiating style. He calls this his art of the deal, because he says, if you read the art of the deal, if you read his book, basically says you come out with a big bluff to scare the opposition, and then you slowly walk it back to make them think, oh, okay, actually the situation's not as bad as before. So this is what he does. He does this with tariffs. He does this with interest rates. Then he does this with this war and oil situation. And he's going to do it with other stuff as well. The China negotiations, whatever. But now we know what his game plan is. So therefore, this is what Pablo has been calling for all along, a blow off top with a small pullback. We didn't even get much of a pullback in stocks, right? Because and you can see when he had the world worried with tariffs, with a recession, boom, the market crashed. Then the market floats back up, right? Because he promises them, hey, look, there's not going to be much tariffs, and therefore inflation is going to be okay, and therefore the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates. So the market floats back up, and each gap up. Look at this gap up because he caved on China. Gap up because there's no war on Iran. There's no ground invasion, just some bombings, and Iran bombed some US bases. Both theatrical shows. They put on theater to put on a show to make it look like everything's okay. So blow off top coming. Even QQQ, I believe, hasn't made a new all-time high yet. So the all-time high is 540.81, and this is 540.4. Just half a point, less than half a point away from new all-time high. And Bitcoin's not that far away. Gold, by the way, is about to break down because look, we broke down this trend line, right, which is not a major trend line. That's only been since May, been only 1 month. But then because there's not a lot of big worries, tariffs going back and to a normal-ish area, and the war situation is going back to a normal-ish area. So therefore, gold is about to break this let's call it 3250 support, and this is a big support because this started back all the way in around December last year. This is a half a year, 6 months, half a year support. I think we're going to tag that 3250 and possibly break down and retest here, which is around the 3000 area. That 3000 is this area, right? Yeah, so that's my pattern of if you've been following Pablo, then you know this has been an exhilarating journey, and this is Trump basically doing his start a fire and put out the fire. His negotiating style, and I think that's why we're going to have the blow off top. Fed's going to cut rates. Fed's going to NQT, maybe do some stealth QE. Tariffs going to come down even more, and Middle East will have probably relative peace for the next few months, but then it's going to blow up again. But that's when bear market starts. So for now, we're still on track for the blow off top, pullback. As I said, pullback, mid-90s, didn't quite get there. We got to 98.1. We got to 98.1, almost there, then blow off top. Thank you for your time, guys. I'll catch you next episode.